Hi everyone, Dolly here. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. So this morning I wanted to come on and do a very quick and simple tutorial. And this is something that I actually learned a while back just by watching YouTube. There are many ways to decoupage or Mod Podge your paper to decorate them so that you can insert them into your planners or your junk journals, however you decide that you want to use these. It's just a fun way to decorate paper. And so for me, I'm very limited on time, so I like to do the quick and fast way. So I've seen other people use Mod Podge. I've seen other people use glue. I decided that I like the quick and easy method of using the glue sticks, and it seems to work for me. A lot of people don't like glue stick because they feel like it might not stick maybe, but for me, I found that they work just fine, and really I use my paper to make junk journals. And so I know that I could always re-glue it on if it ever came apart. But for now, I have noticed that they are really sturdy on here. And this is one that I use the glue stick on. I think the best part about this is that it's so quick and it's so easy. And that's why I like to use the glue sticks. You guys, I'm lazy when it comes to process. So I like to take the shortcut. And if I can save 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm really happy. So for these, really all I've done is I have used the coffee dyed paper. And of course, to dye your paper is a process. And I can always do a tutorial for that later, but let me tell you, there are so many wonderful tutorials on YouTube that will teach you guys how to coffee dye your paper. So I do coffee dye my paper. I do not tea dye my paper because, again, I'm really lazy when it comes to process, and I like the quick method. So with tea dyeing, you do have to let the tea sit for a while so that the stain settles, or so that you get that deep dark color. For me, I like to use the instant coffee, because instant coffee I can just mix into the hot water and leave the paper in for a little while, and I get really pretty color, you guys. So let me show you some of the pieces that I have coffee dyed. So I like to dye my paper, and I know that, I'm sorry, I have my little bone folder in there. These pages are not that dark, but then again, I don't necessarily need my pages to be super dark. As you can see, there are some that are darker, but I like to have just a variety of color. As you can see, some have some prints, and let me tell you, this did not come from soaking it into the coffee. This came from just leaving it outside in the sun, and I had rocks on top of them, and this is what gave me this little design here. You guys, I do not put my paper in the oven because I don't have time to babysit the oven. And so what I do is, after I do a whole bunch of them, I will take them out to my backyard when it's sunny. I'll leave them out with rocks on top of maybe a cluster of them and let them sit there. And by the time I get home from work, they're dry. So that's how I get these really quick. And you don't only have to use the plain paper. You can also coffee dye other pieces. For example, I did coffee dye a few pieces that I printed off the internet, such as these. I found some little registers. This one is like a summary of a department weekly summary is what it says. And I also found a calendar page. And then this right here says school attendance register. So these are all really fun to coffee dye because you get a variety of print, and these you can coffee dye just as fast as the plain blank sheets. Now, if you don't want a coffee dye and you just want to insert some pages into your journal, you can also find old vintage books. This is an old vintage floral dictionary that I found, and it was fairly old, but as you can see, the paper's already kind of turned a beige color. So it pretty much matches this vintage tint. So I didn't feel it necessary to coffee dye this. I mean, I could go ahead and coffee dye this so that it would have that same crinkle effect, but again, I was too lazy, you guys. So, all right, so these pages I took just to show you an example, but we're actually going to go ahead and do a couple of them so that you guys can see my process and how simple it is. Again, just as a disclosure, you guys, I am not the creator or inventor of, you know, these actual methods or the process. I did not create the process. I found these processes through watching all of the different ways on YouTube that people either Mod Podge or decoupage. And again, I use glue sticks. So let's go ahead, you guys, and let's get started. So what I like to do is I like to go through my napkins and select what I want to use for my journals. As you can see, a lot of my napkins that I've pulled are floral because I want to do a journal that is somewhat in a vintage style. Now, this isn't really vintage, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to use maybe this one. This has a lot of floral pieces in it, as you can see, and I do love the bird cage. That's really pretty. A lot of the leaves and flowers. So let's go ahead and take this one. We can use this. And I do love this Paris napkin. This is a smaller one, but it's okay. It doesn't take much to decorate a page. I do like that. So let's go ahead and use this as well. I also like this one. This is what I used to design these two pages. I think that they match really well with the color of the paper. So I'm going to go ahead and use that one. So let's go ahead and put these other ones aside. And the other thing I wanted to tell you guys is for this, all you're going to need, of course, are your blank vintage papers. You're going to need your napkins. You're going to need your glue sticks. You're going to need your ink to do your printing. And let me tell you, if you have a page like this that is the music notes page, you're not going to need to stamp on this because clearly this is already printed on and you won't need to print. I'm talking about when you're using a blank piece of paper like this and you want to decorate it, something like this, what you will need is you will need some type of a stamp that is maybe postage or postal stamp that you can decorate with before you actually do the decoupage on top of it. And let me give you an example of some of the stamps you guys can use. So what I typically use, I'm sorry you guys, these are really stained already because as you can see, they've been used. If you have larger postal type stamps like this, or even the smaller ones like this, you can always use these. And you guys, I believe I purchased these on AliExpress, so you can always go in there and they're very reasonable, not expensive at all. So this is, I've used this larger one to do the stamps on this. And what you can do is you can do a variety of stamps. If you don't want to use just one, you can pick several. And so these are the stamps that I will be using today. And let's go ahead and put these aside. So you want to select your stamp. And what I want to do first is I want to go ahead and choose my paper. So let's go ahead and work with this paper first. The other piece is this one right here. And this was not coffee dyed, like I said. So we're just going to work with what we have here. And so let's go ahead and put the stamps aside for now. Okay, so let's go ahead and work with the blank paper first, because we're going to do the stamps on them. Let's go ahead and choose the stamp that we're going to use, which I like to use this larger one, so I'm going to put this aside. Let's go ahead. Sorry, this is so stained, you guys, and sometimes I have a really hard time removing the stain from these, so it is what it is, but you know, they weren't expensive, so I'm not worried. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to stamp all over this, and what you want to do is you want to ink this up as best as you can, and I think what I'm going to do is use this darker brown, just so the print shows, and so that I don't have to really work hard to get the print on there. Okay, so, you know, sometimes you want to go ahead. You don't want to do a straight print, so I kind of like to have them in all areas, in all directions. Sorry about that. And you're just going to randomly stamp all over the place, wherever you can. You don't have to fill up the paper completely. But you want to get, you know, the design in there. Okay, I think that's good enough, you guys. Look at, my handprints are on there as well, so you don't have to put your thumbprints on there. Mine just accidentally got on there. Okay, I'm going to move this paper aside. I didn't want to get any of the ink on my little board here. So, okay, so you've got your design there. I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to go with this one. So there are several ways, first of all, that you can take the portions that you're going to use, but the first thing you want to do is you want to take the layer off. I know some people tear the pieces off and then remove the layers, but I like to remove the layers all at once. Some of your napkins will be 2-plied, but others will be 3. So I'm not sure how many layers there are on this one, and you guys, I do not have nails, so it may take me a while to separate this. Okay, so I see here that there's one layer here, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this. And be very careful, because some of these napkin pieces are really fragile, you guys, and sometimes the whole entire thing might rip. So that's one layer. I think there might be another layer, so let me play around with this and see if there is another layer to this. And there is. All right, you guys, so this will be the last layer. I'm gonna take this apart, and it makes it easier when you remove the layer all at once for you to tear the sections apart that you want to use on your actual paper. And again, be very careful, especially when you're pulling off the last layer, because your paper is thinning down, so it's going to be a lot more fragile and it will rip very easily. Okay. I remember the first time I did this, I was not too gentle and I ruined several napkin pieces. All right. Okay, so we have our last layer, and this is what you're going to be using. So we want to choose a print, and you guys, I do want to take one of these bird cages and use that, and then I also want to take some of the flowers here and use those. So a lot of times people will use water and maybe a brush or even a Q-tip. Let me give you an example. I don't want to use water today, you guys, but I do want to show you how you can use water if that's how you choose to do it. So let me wet. You can take water and a paintbrush if you like, but I don't have a paintbrush with me upstairs. So what I'd rather do is use a Q-tip. So let's say I want to take this portion rather than ripping it. you can just do the water or the brush if you have a brush. Luckily, I'm upstairs in my bathroom, so you can just do it this way, and it makes it very easy for you to tear the piece off that you want to use, just like that, okay? But today, like I said, I'm not going to be using water. I am just going to be using my hands because the water has to dry around here, that it will be harder for me to use the glue stick. So let me go ahead and I'm going to take this section right here and I'm going to tear it off because this is what I'm going to use. Okay. Okay, so let me work around this, and this is all I do is I hold down the pieces that I definitely want to use so that it doesn't get torn away, and I work around it until I have the piece that I want to use on my paper. And I do want to get this little flower here, but you want it to kind of have that rough edge so that it kind of blends in once it's glued down. Okay, so I think that'll be good for one piece. I'm going to go ahead and throw this away. This is the one that we took apart using water, since I am not planning to use water today, you guys. All right, so that's one piece I would like to glue on. I also want to use some of these flowers because they're so pretty. So I'm going to work around this piece right here because I do like this piece. It's very pretty. I want to make sure I get the bird here. And you guys, don't worry about getting it perfect. You know, a lot of you are probably wondering, why don't you just cut around it using scissors? Well, the scissors give it too clean of an edge, and then it doesn't blend down into the paper when you decoupage it. So I really like this piece right here. If you want, you could tear apart the piece if it just looks too large. So I'll figure that out when we lay it down on paper. The other piece that I want to use here is this one right here. Let me just work around these flowers. Sometimes I feel like the darker pieces, like the leaves, they stand out too much, and I kind of want it to just blend in to my paper. So that will work right there. And let's see what else. Use as much of the paper as you can, but then you don't want to overwhelm the page with too much design, if you know what I mean, because you want the prints to stand out as well. So I'm just going to take some of these pieces right here. Again, I want to avoid the dark green because it's just too bright for me. Okay, I think that will work. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put these aside because I have a good number of pieces here that I can work with right there. All right, so let's take our paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out and try and figure where I want these pieces. So I can put my bird cage right here. Maybe this right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and tear this apart because I think this piece is just too big, so. Okay, so I think I'm going to use this for the top right there. Let's go ahead and center this right here. I can take a piece of this and use a portion of this and maybe use this right in here, just like that. Well, let's do this. There you go. Like that better. Okay, so you guys, you have all of your pieces ready to lay down, and now all you're going to do, and you're going to be so amazed at how easy this is and how quick it is. You're going to take your glue stick, okay? And what you're going to do is you are going to take the pieces. Let's work with this large piece first. And what you're going to do, yes, I know this is really, really scary because you would think that it would rip. You're going to turn it around and you're going to apply the glue right behind it, holding it down so that it doesn't rip while you glue. And this, when you do this, you really have to be careful. So I like to kind of grip it and just gently just rub the glue on there, making sure that you're covering all the pieces, and at the same time, you guys hold it down because it is going to lift. Just try to be as gentle as possible because I have ripped many pieces doing this by being in too much of a hurry and not paying attention to the parts that are lifting while I'm gluing it. So you are, and be careful because if your thumb or your finger sticks to it, it could easily rip the sheet, just like what I'm doing right now is, okay, so there you go. I can feel it's really wet and gluey, and I have to tear it apart from my thumb because my thumb will stick to it. You're just going to lay that down very gently, just like this, and then smooth it down. And don't worry if you have wrinkles because that kind of gives it a really neat, natural effect. And there you go, you guys. It's really pretty. It blends right in, as you can see. Okay, just kind of pat it down and flatten it down. And if you guys want, you could even use your bone folder after you've laid it down. Take your bone folder and kind of flatten that in there. Okay, let's go ahead and work the other pieces in. Sorry, you guys, I'm taking my time with this one because I do not want to rip these pieces. And you will notice that the glue does tend to get really, really sticky the longer that you are doing this. So try not to touch the areas that you've just applied the glue to because it will stick to your finger, and then what will happen is when you try to take your finger off of it, it'll rip. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply that to the top of this one right here, gently as possible. Okay, there we go. Okay, so use the bone folder to flatten that down. Look how pretty that is, you guys. I love that little bird right there. Okay, so we've got a few more pieces here. Okay, these are the smaller pieces that we're going to work with. So, all right, so let's go ahead and do this one right here. And the more you do this, the more you will get the hang of it. So don't worry about just diving into it, you guys. I know that you're afraid that the paper's going to rip, but hey, when you buy the napkin, you get several pieces, so you have a lot of pieces to practice on. Let's go ahead and put that right here, just like that. Love how that comes out. All right, so let's go ahead and use this. And I just glue it right on top of the paper. I don't worry about glue getting on the paper itself because, you guys, this glue stick, it does dry, so I don't worry. I mean, it's not, you know, as long as I let it sit afterwards for a little while. See what I mean? I ripped it already, but that's okay. I'm still going to use it. Okay, I'm going to lay that down right there. Just take that piece that ripped off. And it was just a little piece, so it doesn't matter. I'm not worried about that. All right, so I have one piece left, and it's this one right here. So I'm going to be extra careful with this because I wasn't too careful with the last piece. My fingers tend to get really sticky and I forget where I'm holding it. So just try and hold it down in the areas where you don't yet have the glue. All right, so I think there's plenty of glue on this. I want to go ahead and add that here. I'm going to just stick that here. Okay, gently pat it down and then use your bone folder or your fingers to pat it down, however you want to do that. And I think that's good. I probably should add another little piece here, Let me see if I have any more of the paper that I can tear from. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to take another little piece. You can kind of play with it. I mean, you know, if you're not picky about where all of the design is, then don't let it bother you. I just feel like I want to add another piece right here because it just looks kind of bare. So I think I'm going to add this piece here. One final piece. All right. Oh, I ripped that. But, you know, a lot of times when you rip it, you really can't tell, you guys. And that's the reason why we like to tear it apart rather than cutting them apart, because then the rips are not noticeable. Okay, lay that down right here. And I kind of like that it has like that, those wrinkles in the paper. It's fine. Does really give it that vintage look. Okay, you guys, we're done, and I think that was so easy. For me, I'm very impatient, so seeing the decoupage using Mod Podge or glue or whatever is just too time consuming for me. So now you can use this in your journal. You can just fold it in and use it as a sheet. But how pretty is that? So let's do one more, you guys. I want to use this piece, which I just, like I said, it came from an English flower garden book, and it was already pretty vintage, so the pages are a little bit aged already. And so let's go ahead and use on this one, I think we're going to go ahead and use, we're going to use this one, okay? So again, let's go ahead and take apart the other pieces, the other layers that are on this napkin. Okay, you guys, I took the two pieces off already. So here's, I'm going to take them all off at once. There's the first, here's the second. I'm going to pull both off already. This one was a pretty easy one to take apart. So there you go. All right, so we have our single layer, and let's go ahead and use this one. Okay, so I'm going to take this piece right here. I want to go ahead and, oops, all right, so I'm put this aside. And I'm gonna just tear around this piece. Like I said, hold down the pieces that you don't want to be torn off, that you want to use on your paper. And then just tear off along the edges, just like this. And this is really easy. I mean, I've done this using the paintbrush and water. But again, the edges get really, really wet, and then it's hard to work with the glue stick. If you're using Mod Podge and you use the paintbrush to tear them out of your sheet, then that's fine. Okay, so that's really pretty. What I like to do is I want to separate these two pieces because I'm going to use one in the very bottom and one on the very top. So I want to take this rose right here. I'm going to use this for the bottom. Let's go ahead. There you go. So I'll use this down here, and I think I'll go ahead and use this portion right on top up here. Well, I think I want to take this part off here. Okay. There you go. That's what I'm going to do. All right, so let's put that there, and we will use this one. Let's see. I think I'll use this in the bottom, you guys, there, so we have this design showing. That's better. All right, so I like that better. Once you've arranged how you want it to lay, go ahead and add your glue. And I love using these pages in my vintage or any journals that I have that are a vintage theme. They just blend in so nicely. Okay, this one is sticking. It's really, really fragile, so I got to be really extra careful with this one. You don't want to go over it too many times because then the paper gets weaker And again, you just want to make sure there's one layer of glue. It's stuck to my finger already. Okay, I'm going to lay this down right here. How pretty that is. Okay, go ahead and use my bone folder. Okay, so this is the larger piece, so this is going to take a little bit more time and patience from me. So you guys, I've been wanting to do this tutorial for a while, and I've just been so busy, and I really miss doing my YouTube videos. It's just been a really hectic few months at home, at work, and I know you guys can relate because I know several of you guys have an even more busier schedule than I. It's just, you know, trying to find time to do the things that you love to do can be really difficult. There's just not enough hours in the day. All right, so here, let's go ahead and see if I can peel it from my fingers because this one's really stuck. All right, so let's go ahead and lay this one down. I think we had it like this. Okay, there you go. All right, you guys. Look at how pretty that is. This came out really pretty as well. Love that. And I love that this is a page from an English flower garden book, which the flowers are perfect to lay on here. And see, even though we didn't coffee dye this paper, it still came out okay. So that is it. That was really simple. You guys, that process is the easiest process that I have learned. And so really, like I said, all you need to have are your napkins, your vintage or your coffee dyed paper, and your stamps, and you're set. So I know that sometimes it's not always so easy to find these stamps. So you guys, I am doing a hidden giveaway in this video as well. I think I'm going to share some stamps with you guys. So let me go ahead and set this up really quick so you guys can see all of the fun pages that we have that you can create on your own. And I'm going to put my stamps, my grimy stamps aside. And so what I want to do, you guys, to help you out in creating your beautiful pages is I want to share some stamps with you, okay? I would love it if you guys can make your own and show me what you prepare or what you end up making and tell me how you like it. So what I want to do is I want to share some stamps with you guys. Here are the stamps that I have. They are the postage stamps. They come in a variety of sizes. Actually, let me move these aside so that you guys can see what these look like. Okay? All right, so here are the stamps that I would like to share with you guys. And again, these are so much fun to use when you're creating these vintage pages. And let me see. Why don't you guys just leave a comment below and include the word stamp or stamps when you comment to me below, and you will be entered to win these two pieces, okay? Easy as that. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out everything that we created again. And you guys, the rules for the entering the giveaway to win these two stamp sets will be in the description box below, so that you know what to follow. And again, the only thing you have to do is mention the word stamp or stamps in your comment below, and you will be entered to win. And I'm not sure yet when I'm going to announce the winner. It all depends on if I have time next weekend, but my goal will be to try and announce it next weekend. And I apologize if I don't get to announcing the winner next weekend. I just never know what comes up in my weekly schedule, but I promise you I will try and announce it when I can. And so also let me know what you guys think of this tutorial. And let me know if you would like to see more of these types of tutorials, or if you don't want to see more of these types of tutorials. I really don't care. Either way, I'm appreciative of any comments that you guys leave, you know, good or bad, just because I know sometimes you guys, you know, want to see other things. And if you feel like this is not what you want to see, then yeah, I'm interested in knowing. All right, you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, like I said, and I hope you'll be able to try it as well. Thank you so much for your support and for watching this video. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.